However, I am not in favor of unplugging devices from the wall outlet when not being used for the following reasons. First, the standby power on most devices and appliances is just minimal. Second, it defies the purpose of making our lives convenient. Third, constant unplugging electrical cord from the wall outlet will result to damage to the electrical cord itself and to the outlet in the long run. But since government and our power companies are urging consumers to unplug unused devices supposedly to save electrical bill, then I am considering it. However, I want a compromise. Not all devices or appliances should be unplugged from the wall. Please subscribe to this channel and click that notification bell for more home technology tips. In the world of smart devices, everything is always plugged to the wall and always online. I will identify what devices and appliances in my home that I am going to unplug when not in use for hours, and I will compute how much I am going to save. Most devices that have standby power are those that are using remote control or those that have standby light or power light. And this commonly found in entertainment appliances like television set and computers. Many of these devices are smart devices or connected to the internet. This standby power is just a little power, but according to power companies, even if it's small, it adds up and could be a burden in your bill at the end of the billing cycle. Others call this as phantom power, and like phantom power for microphones, this standby power is used for better user experience or to make our devices and appliance immediately accessible anytime so that you don't wait for the machine to boot up every time. Take for example this PCL Smart TV. If I'll turn it off, it will be put on standby mode, and take note of the flashing standby lights here. And if I am going to turn it on again, the screen will show in just few seconds. If I am going to turn this TV set completely, you will be prompted to power off or restart. I'll choose power off. So it's now shutting down. It's like a computer. And if I am going to turn it on again, it will take some time to restart because the TV set will reboot. It's like a computer because this is powered by Android operating system. As you can see here, it's still rebooting. And this will also happen when you unplug the TV set from the wall socket. That's inconvenience, right? Since I don't want to damage the plug and the outlet from regular unplugging and plugging, I am using smart plugs or outlets for some appliances to program when to cut off the device from the power outlet and save power. Now let's start measuring devices and appliances inside my home. I am going to use this 6-in-1 meter that can show voltage, current, and power all at the same time. The devices will be plugged here instead of the wall socket. I have measured first the power consumption of smart plugs or outlets because it also consumes power. However, the measurement is very small with only about 1.7 watts as starting power because of starting current, but it settles to zero after a second. So we can't count it in our computation for every device that I connected to smart outlet. On my table, there are two devices that are always on. These two JBL speakers and this Google Nest Hub 2. These JBL monitors are on as soon as I wake up and sit in front of the table and until I sleep in the evening. This has a power switch at the back, but it is too inconvenient to turn on and off the switch. Especially I am using these speakers as monitor for my tablet and other devices. So my decision is not to unplug, at least not to switch off these speakers every time. For the Nest Hub 2, it should always be on since I need it anytime. And there's another device that is always on in my working area, the extension outlet under the table. It has a little standby power as indicated by its power light. I cannot turn it off because the Google Nest Hub 2 is always plugged on it. My TCL Smart TV has a rated input power 110 watts and its standby power is only 0.8 watt. I can use Google Assistant to turn this on and off, and I can also stream video from my phone on this TV set. However, sa panahon ngayon, bihira na kaming manonood ng TV. In fact, dito sa bahay, ako lang ang palaging nanonood ng TV. I watch news in the morning and in the evening. So ginawa ko, I set the TV to only turn on, tinanggal talaga from the power outlet automatically using a smart plug on certain period of the day. I plug the TV to the eWeLink smart plug, which only turns on for 3 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. I used to keep this TV plug on the wall for 24/7, so I have saved 19 hours of standby power every day. And that saving is translated to 15.2 watts a day or 19 centavos a day, or in 30 days, that's about 6 pesos. The rest of the devices in the living room are always on or on standby mode. Yung router ko, obviously, palaging on yan kasi I have all my smart devices connected to it, including security camera, so I cannot turn it off even if natutulog na kami. And also this hub, this is also on the whole time. And I have also here my speaker, my Xiaomi speaker. Although hindi to siya palaging ginagamit, but I keep this device on all the time. Di naman to malaki ang kanyang consumption, so I just left it on the whole time. Dalawa to. The other one is on the other side. The other rack is also full of some electronics. So, andyan yung isang Xiaomi speaker. And meron din siya ditong dehumidifier. I cannot turn it off on certain period of time because supposedly ang dehumidifier is palaging naka-on siya, especially if yung bahay mo is humid. Di mo pa na-achieve yung ideal humidity ng bahay na between 30 and 60 or between 40 and 70%. So, kailangan naka-on yan. Although, 22 watts lang naman yan, ang consumption yan per hour. And also, another device in the living room is the air purifier. Nakikita niyo dyan, yung display, nakasulat dyan 70, that's the humidity level. So, nasa 70 ako, nasa borderline. And also, this purifier is always on because when you operate an air purifier, supposedly, naka-on yan palagi for your safety. Baka bigla lang may pumapasok na masamang hangin, or let's say gas. So, every time mas-sense ng ma-detect ng sensor ng air purifier na may masamang hangin pumapasok sa bahay nyo, mag-a-alarm siya. Especially this Xiaomi air purifier Lite, meron siyang detection on gases, and I program it to make an alarm. Dito naman tayo sa aking show cabinet. If I open this one, it will light up, and also sa baba. Sa baba, gumamit ako ng 220 volts na LED. Isa na siyang package. So, wala akong problema dyan. Direct yan naka-plug-in. But this one, gumamit ako ng adapter. So, yung adapter naka-standby siya. Kahit naka-off yan, yung adapter nakasaksak. While yung isa is automatic ma-off yun kasi isa siyang block ng LED. Isang case, isang unit siya talaga. So, hindi siya nag-consume din ng power. Although, the adapter sa likod nito, I measured it, and it shows the standby power is about point 0.1 to point 0.9 during startup, then it will settle to 0. So in other words, negligible yung consumption niya as a standby power. So wala tong problema. For my kitchen electronics, which are mostly from Xiaomi, these are always plugged to the wall since these are smart and connected to the net 24/7. However, I am open to compromise since I only need its smart functions when doing automation, giving me phone notification that cooking is completed and reminding me if it's cooking time. The Xiaomi rice cooker is 1,130 watts or about 5 amperes ang consumption niya. It means every hour, kung nagluluto ka, you are going to consume 1,130 watts. That's 1 kilowatt. Okay? So that's about 13 pesos in our power company. Then I measured the standby power. That's only it's not only because medyo malaki siya. It's 3.1 watts yung standby power niya. But since I am only using this for about 1 hour rice cooking and I only cook rice 1 or 2 times a day, so let's say meron siyang standby hours na 22 hours. So if I'm going to compute the 22 hours by the 3.1 watts, then I can save 68.2 watts a day. So in a month, I can save at least 26 pesos. Okay? So I decided I will put a smart plug on this rice cooker. Bibili pa ako ng medyo maliit yung Xiaomi na smart outlet para magkasya siya dito kasi meron siyang iba pang plug na gumagamit doon sa kabila. On the other hand, itong induction cooker ko, still from Xiaomi, medyo malaki to. This is 2,100 watts. Its standby power is the highest among the devices that I have measured. Umabot siya ng 6 watts yung standby power niya. So it means kahit wala akong niluluto, it consumes 6 watts of power. Then I use this induction cooker 3 times a day. Okay? So let's say if I'm going to save standby power, i-on ko lang to 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours at noon time, and 3 hours in the evening. Then I have 15 hours of standby power that I can save. So you multiply that 15 by 6, that's 90 watts a day ang masasave ko. So at least I can save 35 pesos a month. So kaya nga, nilagyan ko na to ng smart outlet. Ginamit ko is e-wheeling because yun lang available ko for this time. This is a 10 ampere smart outlet. So kasang-kasya lang siya sa Xiaomi smart induction cooker because the smart induction cooker is 2,100 watts. If you compute that, multiply that by 220 or 230 volts, then you get the ampere of 9 amperes. So 9 amperes ang induction cooker, then 10 amperes yung smart outlet. So kasang-kasya lang siya. Ito namang Xiaomi microwave oven ko ay meron siyang standby power na about 1.8 watts. Then bihira ko naman itong ginagamit. Usually mag-tuto lang ako ng mga frozen food. Then it will not take much time. Siguro let's say sa isang araw, 1 hour lang yung magagamit niya. So I have 23 hours of standby power. So if you compute that by 1.8 watts na standby power, so I can consume 41.4 watts of standby power. So kung isa-save ko yung 41.4 watts a day sa 23 hours niya, then I can save 16 pesos a month. So I decided na lalagyan ko rin to ng smart outlet. Maghanap pa lang ako ng smart outlet na appropriate for this one. But for this Media Instant Hot Water Dispenser, it has a standby power. This is not smart, so supposedly I can unplug this anytime. However, it has a function that prevents me from unplugging it. If this loses power due to outage or by unplugging it, the next time it is turned on, it will automatically set on cleaning mode when you dispense water for the first time after power on it is restored. So it's not practical to unplug this kitchen appliance even if you're not using it. Anyway, its standby power consumption is only 1.6 watts at startup but will settle to zero after a second due to very small load current. My range hood has no standby power, but this digital gas hub has a standby power since it is using an adapter to power its digital functions. The adapter is consuming a small amount of power. It will reach up to zero point 0.7 watt upon plugging due to the starting current, but it immediately stays at zero. Due to its small consumption, I could not calculate the exact amount of power that I saved, so I decided to remove the smart outlet I used earlier for the stove and transfer it to the Xiaomi induction cooker instead. Like an ordinary fan, this uses about 60 watts of power, but this has a remote control that consumes about zero point 0.4 watt of standby power. So I'm going to pay 3 pesos and 75 centavos a month for its standby power. I only use this fan for a total of an hour or two a day. Let's say 22 hours of standby daily will cost me at least 3 pesos a month. I can put a smart outlet later on this fan and in conjunction with a human sensor so that power will only turn on once the sensor detects anyone in this area and turns off after a new one is here for a specified period of time. One of my air conditioning unit has a remote function. The standby power is at zero point 0.8 to zero point 0.9 watt, but there was a time it reaches 1 watt. This
Point
AC
nine
is restless
watts.
because of work from home during daytime, so it's barely on standby during regular days. Besides, maybe at most I can only save 2 pesos in a month, granting this AC can be free for 5 hours a day. Modern computers have standby power. You can notice this when the lights of accessories like pads and microphones are on. These consume 2.8 watts of standby power, so I put a smart plug on this PC so that I could monitor if this is left idle when its standby power is on. However, because of work from home, this too is barely on standby. Maybe it's only off for about 7 hours, so in a day I can save 19.6 watts 588 watts in 30 days, or over 7 pesos savings in a month. In the bathroom, I have a digital shower heater. It has a standby power for its control, but it's not advisable to unplug and plug regularly shower heaters for safety reason. I also have booster pump that is supplied by an adapter that is always plugged into an outlet. We don't need to measure the consumption of the pump since it uses DC power from the adapter, but the adapter is consuming a small amount of power with the pump on standby mode. So this is as is. There are devices that has no pilot lights or it has no remote control but it actually has a standby power. Tulad itong coffee maker ko. Kung titingnan mo, para siyang walang kinakain ngayon ng kuryente because you don't see any lights, you don't see it's a remote control. But when you press the buttons here, it will automatically turns on. So it means the circuit inside this coffee maker has a standby power. And when I measured this coffee maker, yung standby power niya is only zero point 0.1 watt. We usually make coffee in the morning and it takes only about 8 minutes, so practically this coffee maker uses standby power for 24 hours. In short, we consume 2.4 watts of power a day, 72 watts in a month, and multiply it by 13 pesos per kilowatt hour, we only consume 93 centavos a month. Well, that's okay. The plug will stay on the wall all the time. Other devices that have standby power include smart bulbs or lamps. In order for us to have immediate access to these devices, it should always be connected to a power source and the internet. This Yeelight bulb registered 0 watt when tested while on standby mode, and depending on its light setting, it may consume up to 8.5 watts. Also, it is important to unplug cell phone charger or adapter if it's not charging devices because it consumes small energy while it is left on the wall. However, my test only shows starting current and startup power while the load current stays at zero. The same is true for this laptop adapter. This is due to its minimal consumption while on standby.
Emergency lamps, on the other hand, should always be plugged into the socket since its lamp will turn on automatically once there's outage. Anyway, the consumption is very small and it didn't even register the wattage during my test. Here's a summary of what I should save on standby power. I identified six devices and appliances. These are TCL Smart TV, the three Xiaomi kitchen electronics, the Black and Decker stand fan, and the personal computer. Among the six devices, it is the Xiaomi induction stove that is consuming a lot of standby power at 6 watts per hour. So you multiply that by 15 hours per day, then I could be spending 35 pesos and 10 centavos for each standby power in a month. So that will be my saving for a month. All in all, the total consumption of standby power in a day is more than 240 watts, and that translates to more than 94 pesos a month for a total of 7,296 watts or 7.2 kilowatt hours. So I was right from the beginning that standby power on most devices and appliances only consume a small amount of energy. The big savings could be achieved not by unplugging devices, but on how we are using the device. Let's say, for example, that electric fan. If I am going to leave this area for an hour, that will consume 60 watts of power without anyone here. But since I put a human sensor there, and in conjunction with a smart plug where the electric fan is connected, it will turn off once it senses that no one is in this area. I have a link of the video here. Please visit and watch it. I also have reviews of most of the appliances that I have featured in this video. Click the link above or in the description for the complete list. You will subscribe to this channel if you like the content and click that notification bell. Daghang salamat. Ako si Jun Tariman. High-tech. Bye-bye.